After an accidental text to her billionaire boss, she discovers incredible secrets in 30 minutes. Sarah Miller leaned back in her chair, her eyes scanning the endless flow of calls, emails, and documents. It was just another day as a receptionist in the bustling heart of Springfield, Missouri. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her best friend, Olivia, a welcome diversion in her relentless routine. Sarah typed back a heartfelt note about how family ties and loyalty felt like the only constants in a world that often seemed to prioritize ambition over compassion. In a moment of frustration, she hit send on a message that was not meant for her friend, but for her mysterious boss, Max Donovan, a billionaire architect who exuded power and enigma. Max's reply came almost instantly. "Family loyalty is admirable, but aren't we all seeking a life beyond struggles?" His words sent a jolt through Sarah. For the first time, she found herself connecting with this man who normally seemed so distant. He was rich, almost untouchable, and yet there was a vulnerability in his message that tugged at something deep within her. She couldn't help but smile as they began a late-night conversation, unraveling their contrasting lives, revealing layers of pain, expectation, and longing. Her mind was a whirlwind. What was she doing? Wasn't it insane to share herself with a man who owned the city's skyline? Yet, the more they talked, the closer they felt. With each text, Max revealed snippets of his world dominated by high expectations and an estranged family. Sarah, in return, poured out her heart about her elderly grandmother, Joan, a proud World War II veteran whose strength had always inspired her. "Remember, we create our own definitions of success," Max texted later that night. His words resonated. They sparked a flicker of hope, but also uncertainty. Sarah's days blurred into a cycle of work and caregiving, with financial worries hanging over her like a storm cloud. The contrast between their lives loomed larger each night they corresponded, the whispers of her colleagues questioning her worth uncertainly weighing on her heart. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As Sarah faced mounting pressures, the breaking point arrived one fateful evening. Joan's health took a sudden turn for the worse, and panic gripped Sarah's heart. She found herself torn apart, her family versus the chance of a new life filled with promise. Max's texts turned into lifelines against her crushing anxieties. Yet, as she prepared to lay her fears bare to him, she hesitated. What would he think? Would he see her as a burden, or did he understand the weight of loyalty? Just as she had decided to be honest with him, an unexpected phone call shattered the house's fragile calm, a revelation spinning her world. Within moments, everything would change. Choices would be made. Paths would diverge. The weight on her shoulders was heavy, and amidst it all, one thought echoed loudly in her mind. Who would she choose to be? The future she always dreamed of, or the family that had given her everything? The phone call came through, sharp and urgent, slicing through the silence like a blade. Sarah held her breath, her heart thudding loudly in her chest. The voice on the other end was filled with grave urgency. "Mrs. Miller, it's about your grandmother. You need to come to the hospital right away." Her knees felt weak. Joan had always been her rock, the one who taught her strength, resilience, and the beauty of perseverance. Sarah could barely process the words. All she could think about was the deep bond they shared. Suddenly, the looming future she was starting to dare to imagine with Max felt like an echo of a dream fading away. As she rushed out of the office and into her small, cramped car, every red light felt like a roadblock, each second stretching painfully. Would she even get there in time? Anxiety twisted her stomach into knots. She grabbed her phone, hesitated, then put it down. This wasn't the moment to reach out to Max. But the temptation lingered. It would have felt good to have him as a support. He got her in a way no one else did, but her raw vulnerability only intensified her fears. The hospital loomed ahead, stark and white, every corner whispering of uncertainty. When she arrived, she barely registered the sterile smell in the air or the sounds of the bustling lobby. Her thoughts were consumed by Joan. Would she be okay? As she rushed through the halls, a wave of dread washed over her. She could end up losing the one person who understood her struggle, who believed in her dreams. Finally, she found the room, the door slightly ajar. As she stepped inside, her heart shattered. Joan lay frail on the hospital bed, her spirit dimmed by illness. The sight was heartbreaking, the strong woman that Sarah had always known reduced to mere frailty. Tears prickled at the corners of her eyes. Joan noticed, her voice a soft and shaky whisper. "Sarah, dear, you came." "I'm here, Grandma," Sarah choked out, swallowing her fear. She took Joan's hand, warm but growing weaker. "You're going to be okay. I promise." But deep down, she sensed the truth. Time was slipping away, and she needed to seize what she could while there was still breath left in her grandmother's body. "I can't believe you're here," Joan continued, a faint smile flickering across her lips despite her pain. "I worry about you. Your dreams, they matter. Don't forget that. I won tea, I promise." "You're my everything," Sarah replied, squeezing her hand tighter. But uncertainty clawed at her heart, weighing heavily with the realization that her dreams might now be a luxury she couldn't afford. They spent the hours talking, Joan reminiscing about the past, her laughter like music. Yet, every shared story felt like sand slipping through their fingers. As night fell, Sarah felt the heavy weight of a decision looming over her. She had poured her heart out to Max, shared her deepest fears, but now faced the ultimate test: stay with her grandmother or follow the path that had begun to open before her with Max.as. The night deepened, alarms echoed in the background, cutting through their fragile moments. Sarah wished for a moment of clarity. Where would her loyalty lie? Was ambition worth pursuing when family was in the balance? Just as she was about to voice her thoughts, a nurse entered, her expression serious. "I'm sorry, but there's something we need to discuss." The air in the room thickened, a storm brewing on the horizon of her choices. Sarah's heart raced, the stark reality of life and death settling over her like a heavy fog. Would this change everything? And in that moment, she realized the future she had started to envision with Max might not even matter if she lost the heartbeat of her past. What was she willing to sacrifice for the life she secretly longed for? The nurse stepped in, her face a mask of compassion and professionalism. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It felt wrong to be standing there, paralyzed by a fear that threatened to swallow her whole. "What is it?" she managed to ask, her voice barely a whisper. There was a pause, heavy enough to drown out the beeping monitors in the room. The nurse glanced at Joan, who seemed to be fading, and then back to Sarah. "Your grandmother's condition is serious. The doctor will be in shortly to explain." The words hit Sarah like a wave, pulling her under. She felt dizzy, her world spinning. Joan, the woman who had been a constant support, the center of her universe, was in danger. "No. This can't be happening," she mumbled, her heart aching at the thought of losing her. Joan's eyes, still sharp but clouded with pain, turned to Sarah. "Don't be sad, dear. I've had a good life, and I'm proud of you." It took everything in Sarah not to break apart at those words. Her grandmother was still nurturing even in her weakest moments, offering love when all Sarah wanted to do was scream and cry. "Grandma, please don't talk like that. We'll get through this together," Sarah insisted, choking back tears. But Joan lifted her hand slightly, her fingers trembling. "You have your own life to live, Sarah. Promise me you'll chase your dreams, even if I can't be there to see them." The gravity of those words settled into Sarah's soul, each syllable hammering away at her heart. Did her grandmother truly think she might not make it? Each passing moment felt more precious, as if time was weaving a tapestry of cherished memories, and Sarah wanted to capture every thread before it slipped away. "Let us make more memories," Sarah said, her voice firm yet filled with desperation. "Tell me about the summer you met Grandpa. About that ridiculous hat he wore." Joan chuckled softly, a warm, melodic sound, like a balm to Sarah's fraying spirit. "Oh, you don't even know the half of it. His hat was a disaster, but he wore it proudly." They shared laughter amidst the tears, Sarah hanging on to those fading moments, unwilling to let them pass into shadows. Each story spun a little light into the dark corners of uncertainty. But Sarah knew, deep down, there was a bitter clock ticking, counting down to an end she dreaded. After some time, a doctor entered. His demeanor was steady yet delicate, a sharp contrast to the chaotic storm swirling in Sarah's heart. A subtle tension filled the air as she awaited his words, half expecting the worst, dread curling around her spine. "Mrs. Miller," he began, checking his clipboard. "Your grandmother's heart is weak. We need to consider options." He hesitated, his eyes darting toward Joan, and then back to Sarah. "We recommend a procedure, but you should know there are risks involved." Sarah's mind raced. "Risks? What kind of risks? Will she be okay?" Panic flooded her voice, desperation clawing at her throat. The doctor looked at her, a flicker of sympathy in his eyes. "It's a delicate procedure, and we need to act fast." The words blurred together. The weight of the world felt monumental on Sarah's shoulders. Her heart pounded with the urgency of the situation, the choices spiraling beyond her control. Could she dare to think about pursuing her own path? How could she balance her grandmother's needs with her own? As the doctor explained more, Sarah struggled to focus. Mixed emotions surged within her: fear, love, and the nagging whispers of her own unfulfilled dreams. Would she stay or take the leap into the unknown? Joan's frail voice broke through the fog. "Sarah, don't lose yourself in this. I'll fight, but you need to fight too for what you want." The runway of decisions stretched out before her, a dark and uncertain road. It all came crashing down as a moment of realization struck. The future she had envisioned was not just about career aspirations, it was about love, family, loss, and the paths that intertwined them. What choices would she make in this fleeting moment of clarity? And as the doctor's next words faded into uncertainty, Sarah felt the profound weight of her grandmother's legacy resting on her shoulders. Would she have the courage to grasp what truly mattered, or would she lose herself in the chaos of it all? The room felt like a whirlwind, thoughts colliding and sparking like flint against steel. Sarah's heart raced, each beat echoing the weight of her grandmother's frail plea. How could she possibly choose between her dreams and the woman who had shaped them? As fear and love intertwined in her mind, she felt the edges of her reality blur, a world existing only in the flickering fluorescent lights and the gentle beeping of the machines around Joan. "Do we have time for the procedure?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "What if we wait? Maybe she'll get better on her own." The doctor cleared his throat, his professionalism unwavering even in the tense atmosphere. "Waiting could make things more complicated. We need to act quickly. The heart is unpredictable." The finality of those words hung heavily in the air. Sarah's throat tightened as she looked at Joan, whose eyes were reflecting an age of wisdom and love. On the outside, that same strength held her upright, but inside, Sarah could see the shadows creeping in. "Grandma," she whispered, her voice breaking. "What if something goes wrong? What if—" Joan's delicate grip tightened on Sarah's hand. "Sweetheart, life is full of uncertainties." She smiled, though it barely masked the pain beneath. "Sometimes we have to take risks to find hope. Choose to be brave, for yourself and for me." Those words seeped into Sarah's bones, igniting a flicker of defiance deep inside her. What would she be if she only stood in the shadow of fear? The images of a future without her grandmother throbbed painfully in her mind, but could she let go of her own dreams? "Okay," she said finally, taking a shaky breath. "Let us do the procedure." We'll figure this out together. The doctor nodded, relief flickering across his face before he gestured for the nurse. I'll prepare the necessary paperwork. We're going to help her, I promise. As the nurse left to get the documents, Sarah turned back to Joan. You stay strong, Grandma. We're in this fight together. Joan's eyes shimmered with gratitude and love, and Sarah felt a rush of warmth blossom in her chest. They weren't done making memories yet. Not by a long shot. And when this is over, let's south do that road trip we always talked about. Just you and me. Joan's smile widened, a light flickering in her tired eyes. Oh, Sarah, that sounds perfect. The atmosphere shifted, a fragile sense of hope threading through the uncertainty. But just as quickly, that hope was swallowed by the weight of the impending surgery. As the nurse returned with the clipboard, within it lay decisions and consent forms that felt both monumental and terrifying. Sarah signed her name, one stroke of the pen representing not just consent but a fierce act of love. And yet, as she did, doubt slipped into her mind like an unwelcome visitor. What else would she have to let go of? With the doctor and nurse arranging for Joan's transfer to surgery, Sarah stepped outside the room, needing air, needing space to think. Leaning against the cool wall, her hands trembled. Images of her aspirations rushed in: studying abroad, starting her own art studio, finally breaking free. Each dream felt so distant suddenly, like clouds drifting away. Could she even pursue them now? The process was a fork in her life's path, splitting despair and hope. As she wrung her hands together, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her from her thoughts. An unnoticed text, one that came in just moments after signing the consent. With growing anticipation, she pulled the phone out and gasped that it was from her boss, an unexpected message with words she could hardly fathom. We need to talk. There are things you don't know about me and they could change everything. A shiver ran down her spine as she read his message. What did he mean by that? Whether her future hung on her grandmother's fight or her boss's secrets remained to be seen. But one thing was for sure, the choices she'd have to make might define her in ways she couldn't yet imagine. As she took a deep breath, realization hit her: she was on the brink of transformation, one that could intertwine her past with an uncharted future. What incredible secrets awaited her? Sarah pressed her back against the cool wall, her heart still racing from the whirlwind of emotions inside the hospital room. The glow from her phone illuminated her shaking hands, and she reread her boss's cryptic message, each word swirling in her mind like a storm. What secrets could James possibly hold? She had worked alongside him for years, navigating the highs and lows of the art world, but an air of mystery still lingered around him. Change everything, she muttered under her breath. Her dreams of starting her own studio suddenly felt teetering on the edge of an abyss, the uncertainty gnawing at her sanity. She longed to detach herself and breathe, even if just for a moment, but the invisible chains of responsibility tugged her back to reality. Taking a deep, steadying breath, Sarah's instincts nudged her to respond. She typed out a hesitant reply: "Is everything okay?" "What do you mean?" She hit send and paced the corridor as her thoughts spiraled. She was acutely aware of the world around her: other families waiting, medical equipment quietly buzzing, nurses shuffling about. It all felt strangely distant, yet painfully close. Every tick of the clock echoed in her mind. Joan was in surgery now, her future hanging by a thread. And here she was, caught up in this confusing tension: a job, dreams, a ticking heartbeat in another room. What was she even doing? Just when doubt threatened to pull her under, her phone buzzed again, making her jump. "Meet me in the cafe downstairs in 15 minutes. There's something important you need to know." Each tap of her fingers against the phone felt heavy as she read his words. The cafe? There? It felt like a world away from the sterile, guarded existence of the hospital. Part of her desperately wanted to decline. She wanted to stay by her grandmother's side, to be the brave granddaughter she had promised to be. But another part of her, a part that craved understanding, that wanted to know why life always presented these forks in the road urged her to go. Clenching her jaw, Sarah took one last look at the hospital doors before reluctantly heading toward the staircase. The slightly stale air mixed with hospital scents was replaced by faint coffee aromas as she descended to the cafe. Still trembling, she fought against the anxiety bubbling in her chest. She felt like she was walking onto a movie set, the world shifting and changing in a way that was both exhilarating and terrifying. When she entered, she spotted James across the room. His back was toward her, but she could sense the intensity radiating off him. She approached cautiously, every step weighing heavier than the last. What kind of revelation could he offer her? "Thanks for coming," he said, turning to face her. His face held an unusual seriousness, eyes deep with something unrecognizable. "Is it about the project? The gallery?" She blurted out, but he shook his head. "It's more personal than that," he began, hesitating for a moment, as if choosing his next words with caution. "I know you're dealing with a lot right now, and I wish I could help more with your grandmother. But there are things from my past, things intertwined with your future." A knot tightened in Sarah's stomach. "What do you mean?" James exhaled, his expression serious. "You're entangled in a story bigger than you know, one that started long before either of us crossed paths. You have no idea the role you might play in it." Her breath caught in her throat. "What are you saying? What story?" His gaze held hers, a silent plea, urging her to understand the gravity of the moment. And in that instant, Sarah realized something. This encounter was more than just about her job or her dreams. It was about a revelation that could intertwine the fates of her past and future. Before she could press him for more, a sudden scream erupted from across the cafe, slicing through the heavy air like a knife. "Sarah!" She turned, instinctively feeling the dread wash over her as she recognized the voice. It was her mother. What disaster awaited her now? Sarah's heart raced as she caught sight of her mother at the entrance of the cafe. The panic etched on her mom's face made her stomach sink. She felt the air thicken around her, a heaviness that pressed against her chest. "Mom?" Sarah called out, her voice trembling. She rushed toward her, the shock of the moment knocking the wind from her sails. What now? What could possibly have gone wrong? "Sarah! Thank God!" Her mother's voice was frantic, a sharp contrast to the calm professionalism of the hospital. "I just heard that there's been a complication with Joan's surgery." Complication. The word echoed in her mind, twisting like a knife. "What do you mean? Complication? Is she?" "Doctors are doing everything they can. They said they need to talk to you." "It doesn't sound good," her mother rushed. The despair in her eyes cut deeper than any knife could. The world around Sarah seemed to blur. The cafe, once a refuge, now felt like a cold prison. Wasn't she supposed to be here for her grandmother? Wasn't she supposed to be the strong one? And yet here she was, unraveling at the seams. "Mom," Sarah stammered, panic rising. I can't do this right now. I need." Before she could finish, James stepped forward, concern written all over his face. Sarah, but she abruptly turned away, her heart breaking under the weight of her truth. "Let me go to her, please. I'll deal with whatever this is later," she said, her voice rising as desperation laced her words. Her mother nodded, tears gleaming like shards of glass in her eyes. "Okay, let's just go." Sarah felt the world spin again. The tension between her and James hung thick in the air. He stood there, looking as if he wanted to reach out, to comfort her or share some of the secrets he just hinted at. But she couldn't handle more than what was already crashing down around her. They hurried to the elevator, her mother pressing the button with an urgency that made Sarah's heartbeat quicken. With every ding of the elevator, her mind raced through worst-case scenarios. "Is there anything you're not telling me?" she demanded, turning to her mother. "What if? There's just too much we don't know yet. Please don't jump to conclusions, her mother pleaded, but the fear was palpable between them. As they stepped off, Sarah was overwhelmed by the sounds of hushed whispers and the clinical smell of antiseptic that flooded her senses. The starkness of it all hit her like a wave. They rounded the corner to the waiting area near Joan's surgery room, and the knot of dread twisted tighter in her chest. And then she saw them, the surgeon and a nurse, waiting just outside the door, their expressions tinged with something she couldn't place. "Sarah," her mother said softly, squeezing her arm. "Just breathe." With a deep inhale, Sarah faced the reality of the moment. Everything she feared most was hanging right there, suspended in the delicate space between hope and loss. When the surgeon finally approached, his eyes carried the weight of too many difficult conversations. "I'm sorry to interrupt your thoughts, but I need to talk about your grandmother," he began. His voice was calm, but she could tell he was bracing for a storm. "Dr. Eldridge," her mother said. "Please just tell us the truth." Sarah felt her world pause, each heartbeat echoing in the silence that followed his next words. "Your grandmother is in recovery, but there are some serious concerns we need to address," as he continued. Sarah's eyes darted back to James, who lingered at the entrance, his face etched with worry, as if he too understood just how much was at stake. The revelation was coming, and it was going to change everything. What secrets lay buried beneath the surface of their family's history? What depths of connection tied her to the man in the cafe? Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket, a distraction, a thread that pulled back into the chaos of her unraveling life. "God, please not now," she whispered aloud, torn between saving her grandmother and discovering the truth that seemed as elusive as hope itself. What awaited her when she picked up that phone could change everything once again. Sarah's hand hesitated over her phone, the buzzing feeling foreign and intrusive. She knew the weight of the moment before her, it felt like everything hung on a fragile thread. The last thing she needed was another complication. "Are you going to answer that?" her mother asked, her voice a whisper but filled with urgency. "I don't even know who it is," Sarah murmured, her eyes flicking between her phone and the surgeon, waiting expectantly for news about her grandmother. "Could be something important," her mother insisted, her face barely masking her own anxiety. Taking a deep breath, Sarah reluctantly pulled out her phone. The screen lit up to reveal a name she wasn't expecting: Ethan. "Ethan?" She frowned, confused. He was supposed to be just her boss. She hadn't intended to mix her work life with everything else going on. "I know we haven't spoken much since the project, but I need you to look at something," the message read. "It's urgent. Please." A wave of frustration washed over her. What could possibly be urgent right now? She glanced at her mother, who was watching her intently. "I can't. Just read it, Sarah." "You might be surprised," her mother encouraged, voice steady as the tension between them heightened. With a reluctant sigh, she opened the thread. Her heart raced as she scrolled through. The message was blunt, frantic almost. "I have news about Joan that you need to know. It could explain everything." Sarah's breath hitched. Her grandmother? How did Ethan know about her? A knot tightened in her chest. "Sarah." Her mother's voice broke into her thoughts, pulling her back to the present. "What does it say?" I don't know." She shook her head, disoriented, the two worlds colliding in a way she never anticipated. "He says he has news about Joan." "News? From Ethan?" Her mother's brow furrowed with concern. "Why would he have information?" "I have no idea," Sarah replied, her heart pounding. "He must have found something out through work or the family." "What does he mean by explain everything?" Her mother pressed, clearly overwhelmed. I have to ask him," she stammered, her fingers flying over the screen. "What do you know, Ethan? Please just tell me. I need to understand." As she hit send, all she could do was wait. The silence in the corridor felt like a scream, echoing all around them. She could feel the tension shift. Each second felt more precious than the last. Dr. Eldridge's calming presence felt distant now as they waited, both in fear and desperation. What could Ethan possibly know? Had he gotten some insight into her grandmother's surgery? Finally, the response came in. The message read, "It has to do with her diagnosis. Something we need to discuss in person. No time for texts." A chill crawled up Sarah's spine. "He says it's important." Before she could finish, James stepped forward. "Sarah, I think we need to know. We can't ignore this. If there is something about Joan, we have to hear it." His words hung in the air, a blend of hope and dread. They both wanted answers, but at what cost? The weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on their shoulders. How can he know? Why are we in the dark about this? Sarah asked, anxiety tightening her throat. "Let us just talk to him," her mother urged, the rhythm of anxiety rising, but as they turned to leave the waiting area, a sudden voice called out from behind them. "Wait! You can't go yet." It was the nurse, her expression urgent and sharp. "What now?" Sarah asked, dread gripping her. "The doctor needs to speak with you again. It's about your grandmother, and her future." Tension radiated through Sarah as she exchanged glances with James. Did the nurse's words portend more bad news, or was their hope intertwined? In that moment, Sarah knew she was on the brink of something massive, a shift in everything she thought she understood. What were the stakes about to become? And could the secrets revealed finally help illuminate the truth lying beneath the surface? As they turned back, all she could think was, what other truths lay waiting to be uncovered? The nurse's presence felt like a gust of cold wind cutting through the warmth of Sarah's thoughts. "We're following up on her vitals," she said, urgency threading through her tone. "The doctor needs you both to hear this." Sarah's heart raced, pounding loudly in her ears as they walked back into the small examination room. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled the air, reminding her just how fragile life really was. Was it her grandmother's life they were discussing, or was it all about to turn into something darker? Dr. Eldridge stood next to a whiteboard filled with scribbles and notes. His expression was serious, and that familiar knot in Sarah's stomach resumed twisting tighter. "I appreciate your patience," he began, his voice steady yet weighed down by unspoken words. "We need to discuss the findings from Joan's recent tests." "Is it bad?" Sarah blurted out, the words tumbling from her lips unbidden. "There's no simple answer," he replied, glancing between the two of them. "I won't lie, we found some concerning indicators. Her diagnosis may not be entirely what we thought." James stepped closer to Sarah, their shoulders nearly touching. "What do you mean?" Dr. Eldridge sighed, taking a step toward the whiteboard. "We believed we had a clear path forward with her treatment plan," but he paused, collecting his thoughts. "The latest results show a more complex scenario." There are signs that suggest he hesitated, as though the weight of what he was about to say was pressing down on him as much as it was on them. Just then, Sarah's phone vibrated again, startling her. It was another message from Ethan. But her focus was torn, and she let it sit unopened. "We may need to consider more aggressive treatment options," Dr. Eldridge finally concluded. "It's not just surgery we need to discuss, it's supplementary therapies, possibly even clinical trials." A wave of shock washed over Sarah. Aggressive treatment? Clinical trials? All she had wanted was for her grandmother to be okay. The thought of uncertainty added another layer of fear, gnawing at her insides. But what does that mean for her? Will she? Dr. Eldridge raised a calming hand. "There's hope, Sarah. We're being proactive. I won't sugarcoat it, it will be a tough road ahead, but we want to give her the best chance." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. Hope and fear collided, creating a swirling storm she didn't know how to navigate. "What about her quality of life? Can you promise she'll be okay?" The doctor's expression softened, but the truth was there nothing could be guaranteed. All we can do is fight alongside her. You have to ask her what she wants, too. Her wishes really matter. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of potential decisions crushing her. Her eyes darted back to the phone buzzing silently in her pocket. There was still Ethan's message, her curiosity pulling her in two different directions. Did she dare look into another uncertainty on top of this growing mountain? Sarah? James's gentle voice broke through her turmoil. We'll get through this together. You're not alone. She glanced at him, grateful for his steadiness. But that flicker of doubt about Ethan's text nagged at her. Just as she was about to pull out her phone, a realization struck like lightning. If it was about Joan, shouldn't she know? Maybe I should talk to Ethan. The thought slipped out before she could catch it, but it felt right in the moment. About what? James asked, confusion momentarily etching his features. Something about her diagnosis. I think it could be connected, Sarah replied, adrenaline coursing through her veins. I need to know what he knows. With a new resolve, Sarah took a deep breath, ready to tackle not only her grandmother's battle but whatever Ethan was hiding. There was still so much to uncover. As she finally opened the new message, her heart raced again. Would it lead her to answers? Or would it unveil more layers of confusion? Right then, she felt herself on the edge, peering into a deeper mystery, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing at a crossroads that would change everything. What if the truth could not only reveal secrets about Joan but also about herself? Could all of them be woven into something bigger, something that had remained hidden for far too long? The message stared back at Sarah, a small window into a world she feared to approach. Her thumb hovered over the screen, wrestling between anxiety and curiosity. She took a deep breath, steadying herself against the torrent of emotions swirling within her. Finally, she tapped it open. I found something out about your grandmother. Ethan's words flashed into view, terse yet edged with urgency. We need to talk. It's important. Heart pounding, Sarah felt a chill skate over her skin. What did he know? Why hadn't he told her sooner? The thought of her grandmother's health intertwined with Ethan's knowledge felt disorienting. She glanced at James, measuring his quiet support. Would he understand if she dived into this, risking even more uncertainty? Is it bad? She whispered, half to herself but loud enough for James to hear. I don't like this, he murmured, brow furrowed in concern. It could give us answers. I need to know. Without waiting for a response, she typed back quickly, where? Now? James's gaze bore into her, and for a moment, she felt guilty for pulling him into her chaos again, but maybe he was the only anchor she had right now. A cafe down the street. I'll wait, Ethan replied moments later. The gravity of it all settled heavily in her stomach as she stood up. I have to go meet him. James fought his expression, finally letting out a deep sigh. Be careful. I don't trust him. I know, she replied, an urgency pushing her forward. But what if he has found something that can help Grandma? I have to at least hear him out. Without another word, they stepped into the busy hallway of the hospital. The fluorescent lights felt uncomfortably bright as they navigated the corridors filled with countless stories of hope and despair. Sarah's mind raced not only about her grandmother but also about what Ethan could possibly uncover. When they reached the entrance, the buzz of the outside world enveloped her. The cold air hit her face, sharp and invigorating. She felt raw, like a fresh wound being exposed, yet ready to fight. I'm right here if you need me, James said, still close by. Thanks, I need to do this alone. He nodded, though his worried eyes tracked her with a fierce loyalty that both comforted and unsettled her. She waved him off and started walking towards the cafe, her steps quickening as uncertainty pushed her ahead. The bell above the cafe door tinkled lightly as she stepped inside. The smell of coffee wrapped around her like a comforting hug, but she barely registered it. Ethan was in the corner, looking almost too at ease, fingers tapping on his phone. "Hey," she said, trying to control the tremor in her voice. "Thanks for coming," he replied, his tone serious, yet there was a flicker of something else in his eyes, something that seemed all too familiar as well as unsettling. "Just hurry. What did you find?" She leaned forward, anticipation crackling between them. He glanced around, making sure no one was within earshot. "I did some digging into the records for your grandmother, and spit it out, Ethan. Joan might have been enrolled in a clinical trial without you knowing," he said, his voice low. Her breath caught. "What do you mean? How do you know this?" "I have my sources. It's connected to the treatment she's been receiving," he said cautiously, gauging her response. With each word, Sarah's world began to tilt again, a storm of questions swirling in her mind. Was this the missing piece? Was it the truth behind Joan's diagnosis, and why hadn't anyone else mentioned it? What's the trial? Why would she hide it from us? Panic threaded through her thoughts. "I don't have all the answers yet, but we need to find out more. Trust me, it could change everything." And just like that, as she leaned closer, preparing to dive into the complexities of hidden truths, another thought scratched at the back of her mind. What else was Ethan not saying? As the cafe buzzed around them, she finally felt the weight of the moment settle and wondered, was she ready to uncover not just her grandmother's secrets but her own too? The stakes were rising. And it was time to face whatever lay waiting beneath the surface. What had already begun to unravel, and how would it entangle them all? Sarah's heart raced as she processed Ethan's words. A clinical trial? Why would she keep that from us? Her voice trembled, caught between disbelief and anxiety. Ethan leaned in closer, his voice low. "I don't know. But it's worth investigating. If she's part of a trial, it could explain her condition and the uncertain prognosis. There might be more options available than we realize." Every nerve in Sarah's body screamed for answers. "What do we need to do? How can we find out more?" Ethan's expression softened, a glimmer of resolve breaking through the shadow of urgency. "We start by looking at the records. If she signed up, there should be documentation somewhere. But it's going to take your initiative. You need access to her medical files." Just then, a familiar anxiety twisted in Sarah's stomach. "And if I can't get access? What if the hospital doesn't let me? Tell them you're her immediate family." "You have rights to her records," Ethan replied, trying to instill a sense of urgency into her. "You've got to push for what you want, Sarah." As she processed his words, something shifted in her heart. This wasn't just about her grandmother anymore, it was about her own will to stand firm in the face of uncertainty. "I can do this," she said, the fire of determination igniting within her. "I'll ask the doctors to see what they have. I can't just let this slide. Grandma needs me." Ethan nodded, a sense of admiration visible on his face. "You're stronger than you know. Just remember that fighting for her isn't just about you, it's about her choice, too." As Sarah took a deep breath, ready to untangle the knot around her grandmother's diagnosis, she felt her phone buzzing again. This time, it was a message from her mom. "Status update on the surgery. Urgent. Please reply." The tension in her chest flared again, anxiety clawed at her throat. "I have to go," she said abruptly, standing up. "I'll get back to you after I talk to the doctors." Ethan quickly reached out, grasping her wrist gently. "Sarah, be careful. This could lead to more questions, but it might also give you the clarity you need." She flashed him a grateful smile. "Thank you. For everything." With renewed energy, Sarah dashed out of the cafe and made her way to the hospital, her heart in sync with every hurried step. The bright lights above seemed more illuminating, almost guiding her path. She could sense the urgency surrounding her grandmother. It pulsed through the air, building upon her resolve. As she approached the hospital's entrance, she couldn't shake off the thought of the secrets lying in the medical records. What truths would she unearth? What legacy of her grandmother remained unexplored? When she reached the waiting room, her mother was pacing back and forth, her worry palpable. "Sarah. I've been trying to reach you. Any news from the cafe?" "Mom, listen," Sarah exclaimed, grasping her mother's hands tightly. "Ethan thinks Grandma might be enrolled in a clinical trial. This could change everything." Her mother's eyes widened, hope flickering amidst the haze of anxiety. "Really? Have you confirmed this?" "I'm about to talk to the doctors. We'll figure it out." The urge to comfort her mother strengthened Sarah's resolve. "Just trust me." Together, they approached the nurse's station, Sarah's pulse quickening as she prepared to speak. "Excuse me, my name is Sarah Miller. I'm the granddaughter of Joan Miller, and we need to discuss her medical records, specifically any clinical trials she might be part of." The nurse nodded, her demeanor calm but professional. "You'll need to fill out some paperwork and provide documentation to verify your relationship." "Of course," Sarah replied, fighting the rising wave of impatience. But she couldn't let doubt infiltrate her focus. "I'll do whatever it takes." As the nurse handed her the forms, she felt her heart thumping louder. The answers she was seeking almost felt within reach, yet a part of her began to wonder, what would the records reveal? "Mom, I'm going to go check on Grandma," Sarah said, determination flooding her veins. "I need you to stay here and handle this." Her mother nodded, a flicker of pride in her eyes as Sarah disappeared down the corridor, her pace quickening as she approached the surgical wing. When she found Joan's recovery room, her breath caught in her throat at the sight of her grandmother lying there, pale but stable. The machines hummed softly, monitoring her every heartbeat. "Grandma?" she whispered, stepping inside fearlessly. "Sarah?" Joan blinked slowly, her voice fragile yet warm. "You came." "Of course. I would never leave your side." Sarah took her grandmother's hand, feeling the familiar warmth that always calmed her soul. As they exchanged quiet words filled with love and reassurance, Sarah's resolve solidified. "Grandma, I'm working on finding out some information. I think there might be options we haven't explored." "Options?" Joan's eyes lit up, despite her weak state. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "I want to look into whether you've been part of any clinical trials. Ethan might have found something we need to know." Joan's expression shifted, a flicker of realization on her face. "Oh, that. What do you mean, that?" Sarah pressed, urgency rising in her chest. "Was it something you didn't want us to know?" Joan hesitated, searching her granddaughter's eyes. "I didn't want to worry you, dear. I didn't know how to bring it up. The doctors they suggested it as a possibility weeks ago. What's important is that you're okay now." "We'll figure this out together," Sarah replied, squeezing her grandmother's hand tighter. "You fought so hard, and you're not going to face this alone." The unwavering love they shared created a heartbeat, a rhythm echoing resilience and warmth. In that moment, everything felt possible. Later, Sarah stepped into the hallway, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. She may have faced unimaginable choices, but she knew she was not just defining her own path, she was honoring the legacy of her grandmother, shedding light on hidden truths. And as the questions wove themselves firmly into her heart, Sarah felt the world around her shift from chaos to clarity. She was prepared. She was strong. Determined, she dove headfirst into the tide of uncertainty, ready to embrace it all: her past, her future, her family. The clock was ticking, but so was the heartbeat of hope. Now was the time for action, the time to set everything in motion. She was ready to unearth the secrets, ready to face whatever lay waiting ahead. This was the beginning of the end, the turning point that would transform not just Sarah, but all of them. In a world that often felt like a maze, Sarah had found her light. If you've loved this journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and dive into the next exclusive stories that await you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and push this message of transformation out to others. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending below, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Thank you for being part of this incredible community.